submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society. I call this podcast Saturday Morning Cartoons. As always, I'll be your storyteller, Dave Trumbore. Joining me tonight, he just threw some weird powder on the campfire. It's my co-host, Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, sir?
David. I'm doing well. How about yourself,
Doing
buddy?
pretty good. I'm hoping that whatever you threw in there was not, carcinogenic or anything I have to worry about getting into my lungs, because I got a face full of this stuff.
They were ashes of a loved one, of a relative.
Oh, yours or mine?
Well, mine.
It'd be really creepy if it was mine.
Yeah, if
That'd
I
be
had
like
your,
serial
if I had
killer
ashes
level.
of your relative,
That'd be fucked up.
or you know what?
Yeah.
That could really be considerate of me because it is very hard to scatter somebody's ashes.
That's true.
And so if I'm doing something, like if I'm doing that level, I kind of feel like you owe me a thank you.
I thank you for taking the fall for me, because I do believe that is illegal in most states, especially
that's all
because I just inhaled Uncle John. So
Yeah, well,
this show has gotten off to a ghoulish start, my friend.
I'll be honest with you. In comparison to the show that we are about to review,
Mm-hmm.
that intro, if you felt that it wasn't solid or 100% on point,
Mm-hmm.
we fucking knocked it out of the park.
We nailed it.
In comparison to the show that we were about
Yeah,
to
you could say that about everything in history, with the exception of a few faux pas that certain organizations have made. We are obviously talking Groovie Ghoulies tonight. This one, as we mentioned on our Mummies Alive podcast, as part of Monster Madness Month, this one, really the only good thing that I can say about it, other than that it's over, is that we used an image from Groovie Ghoulies as our kind of like stand-in logo for some time before we got exceptional artist Rory Lucy to make the new and beautiful logo that we currently have for you to enjoy. So we did actually use this image beforehand. But I had never watched this show. How about you?
I'd never watched it. I'd never even heard of it.
Yeah, I think this was just some random thing. We did a search for Halloween cartoons or scary monster cartoons or whatever. And
There's just garbage cartoons.
Garbage cartoons you should never watch.
Garbage tunes
All-
that should have never aired.
GarbageTunes.com listed this as the first cartoon you should never watch. We're pissing off a bunch of 50 and 60-year-olds at this point.
I don't care.
Because as Sean is about to reveal with a little bit of history, this was an earlier one. This is, an era that we don't get to talk about too often. I think we've dipped into the 70s every once in a while for Hanna-Barbera stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, this is
But
definitely
those shows have been competent.
Yes.
So
agreed.
even shows like in the late 60s when we did Super President.
Right. Oh man. Still voting for that guy over the current campaigners.
Yeah. We Super President, Herculoids, Thundar, those were shows, I mean, with the exception of maybe Herculoids, those were shows that really had a solid premise and were fun and exciting. And Herculoids had its own niche, and it filled a certain role. But Groovie Ghoulies was
ghoulish.
was a difficult watch, and so
we struggle, so you guys don't have to.
Yeah, let's get into
Let's
it.
do
So, a little bit of history about Groovie Ghoulies. It's an American animated television show that had its original run on network television between 1970 and 1972, totaling 16 episodes. It was produced by Filmation. Groovie Ghoulies was a spin-off of the Sabrina the Teenage Witch show, which itself was a spin-off of the Archie show. Like most Saturday morning cartoons of that era, Groovie Ghoulies utilized an adult laugh track.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, and the reason that I sort of extended that and punctuated that final sentence the way that I did is because we watched one episode this evening.
Right.
And
more than enough.
It was way more than enough. And I'm not, I feel bad when we do this. Like when we get so upset about some of these cartoons, people put time and they put energy in, and maybe it's a generation or a cultural difference that we have with them. But in this instance, it was very challenging because of the nature of the cartoon and how it's set up and sort of the conceit that they really jump into from the beginning, and they never let up.
Yeah, and
it
that
never stops.
I think you hit it on 2 points why this one didn't really agree with us. There is a generational thing. So this particular show is modeled after another show from the era that was extremely popular, but usually with an older crowd. So this cartoon was aimed at obviously younger audiences, but with the same kind of motif and the same structure and much worse jokes, I would imagine. But it is definitely a sign of those particular times. That being said, man, when I was going through the reviews, a lot of people thought that this was great. A lot of people still loved it as, 55-year-olds, 65-year-olds. But then a lot of people were just like, nope, this show is terrible. So it is.
Seems, I mean, like a lot of the shows that we've watched,
Exactly.
It seems to be very polarizing. And I fell on the wrong side of this one for some reason. It's not very often that we'll watch a cartoon, and the litmus test for me is if I begin to kind of slowly look over at my phone.
Or what I do is I'll just look down at the timer as it's rolling on YouTube. I'm just like, how many fucking minutes do I have left?
Yeah, I was doing both. I was looking at the timer on YouTube, and I was looking at my phone, and I was like, I wonder what Pokemon Shuffle's up to right now. Wonder if I can catch them all.
I was more like, man, I got bills to pay. I should be like balancing a checkbook or something else besides this.
You had legit adult things that you were concerned about.
I chose, instead of watching cartoons, which I enjoy and love bringing to you guys every week and talking to Sean about and our special guests, this was the one time where I was just like, I should just be an adult for the next 20 minutes.
And in these instances, I was thinking to myself, I have to be the very best.
Just Pokemon it up.
Pokemon
well
it
done. We're going to have a tournament style breakdown later for you, but
can't wait.
Let me try to explain a little bit of kind of what the show was about. That's difficult because it's not about anything. It is,
and that is actually, I think, as I hit on the 2 points for you, you just hit on a major point for me. So that is a good way to get into it.
That's the frustration. That's the frustrating point because it's actually not set up to be. So the Ghoulies, in the name Groovie Ghoulies, were actually a group of so-called hip monsters residing at Horrible Hall, a haunted boarding house for monsters, on Horrible Drive. Many of the Ghoulies were pop culture echoes of the classic horror film monsters created in the 1930s and 40s by Universal Pictures. So you'll recognize your Dracula, your Wolfman. I think there's a mummy here and there. There's a lot of kind of like other random characters, spooky stuff that you've seen in cartoon.
Yeah. There's the plant from Little Shop of Horrors
right.
At some point.
There's like witches and little goblin type characters and just a bunch of spooky stuff.
The female ghoul that they had that was in there, was she a female vampire or was she like a bride of Frankenstein?
I couldn't tell. Her name was Bella Lugosi, I think.
Okay.
So she straight up just took Bella Lugosi's name,
Bella
if I remember
Lugosi.
correctly.
Jesus.
And she was kind of like a call-in psychic, but I don't know what she was going for. If she was going for like an Elvira thing or if she was going for a Lady Dracula thing. But there's like one human in here, so it's almost like watching I think it was the Munsters, or was it Addams Family, or both, where they had one human family member. Crap, I can't remember if it was Munsters or Addams Family.
I thought it was the Addams Family.
It might have been. Monsters might have had them too. They each had like one normal human cousin
that
they called like the
that
weird
cousin one. Or that aunt or something like that shows up. So yeah, I mean, the dynamic is identical.
Yeah. So I think that's actually supposed to be Sabrina in this case.
It is because they actually in this episode they name and they're like, "What do you think, Sabrina?" And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, and I think an alternate name for this show is Sabrina and the Groovie Ghoulies, because she just like, hey man, it's the late 60s, early 70s. She just shacks up with this crazy hippie band and just goes on tour, I guess. Okay, so every episode of Groovie Ghoulies featured at least 2 musical segments, and as we're about to talk about, this entire show is just broken into non sequitur segments. So we had 2 musical segments. The first one was by the Groovie Ghoulies themselves. The second one was by another resident band, including the Bareboned Band, the Mummies and the Puppies, the Rolling Headstones, and the Spirits of 76. So if you're thinking to yourself, man, those names sound awfully punny, you're not going to get through this show. You're not going to make it.
You have to remember, man, a rolling headstone gathers no boss.
Oh. Yeah, I think the line was like, hey, who's the leader of the Rolling Headstones? And then hippie werewolf.
Rolling headstone gathers no boss.
Shut it down.
And that would have been a perfect time for an adult laugh track to
kick in,
chime in and tell me that was an actual joke.
Tell me it was all going to be okay.
It may have been, in the 80s they had those, like the 90s they had those keychains with gun noises.
Yeah.
It would have been better if they would have hit the one of like the.
Yes. Every single time. I was actually wishing for a power outage. Did not happen. I needed any kind of excuse. Okay, so again, we're talking about the narrative structure of the show now, and this is the important part. So this show was structured very much like the popular show Laugh In, which was kind of like a variety sketch show that featured a lot of just like quick jokes, a lot of puns, a lot of really easy to consume humor, because I had several short segments of just these one-liners and jokes and riddles and things like that. This was most exemplified by something they called the Weird Windows Time, which was a takeoff of Laugh-In's famous joke wall. So when like various characters would pop through like doors or windows and just like answer, do a call and response kind of thing to everybody else that was on stage. The difference is Laugh-In, from what I remember, was funny. This show, maybe if you're of a certain age, maybe if you're kids and you've never heard these terrible jokes before, you think it's the funniest thing in the world. That did not happen for us.
It's very funny because I remember watching Hee Haw when I was younger.
Yeah, same kind of thing.
And so it was like the same. I walked away with sort of a Hee Haw vibe, but even then I was like, Hee Haw had through stories in some cases.
Yeah, or at least running gags that would pop up and reward you.
And they also had a laugh track, you know, and in most cases they had jokes that played off of a certain like cultural stereotype about, in that case it was sort of like country bumpkins, right? You know, and they would juxtapose that with like, you know, can't believe these people who are city dwellers, and you know that
very Green Acres kind of humor.
Yeah, and I loved Green Acres too. Like I you know, a lot of these things, you know, I was born in 1980, and so, you know, I wasn't there in the 70s when these came on, but I watched
thank God for Nick at Night.
A ton of Nick at Night.
Hell yeah.
Like
summer night blocks, whatever they were, like Saturday night blocks or whatever.
Those things were so good.
Block Party
Some
Summer.
of the shows Block Party Summer. Those things were fantastic. Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yeah. Everything
that they had, you know, My Three Sons, Dennis the Menace. Those shows were so good, and I loved watching them. And you know, and even Hee Haw and Laugh-In and some of these other things, I didn't watch them as much, but watching this,
it's rough, and it's because they don't really. They're trying to marry this sort of the horror side of these characters and the gross out side with kind of like the pop culture at the time. So, you know, there's a werewolf that kind of talks like this, man. He's just like, hey, man. And he's just super laid back and groovy, man. And that gets real. We have a vampire
who continued to say everything was about bats.
Everything's driving me batty.
Oh boy,
that's very discouraging.
That same everything driving me batty joke is used like 3 times in the one episode that we watched,
and by different people too. By him sometimes, by other people other times, and it's just for me. This format didn't work. Because it was it was watching something I didn't want to watch. That's the long and short of it. It's not very funny.
Plain and simple.
I did not care about anything. I just wanted it to be done. So
to transition into this, I will say the thing that was really weird was that the theme song was a little bit crazy. Again, there was no dedicated animation. I think that whenever they were putting this together, I want to say that Filmation sat down at a table with a bunch of people and was like, how can we cut costs as much as possible? Yeah. We'll just show almost the same clips of animation throughout the entire theme song. We'll just put a fun, happy song on it. And I didn't hate the intro theme song. It's kind of set like, as Dave, as you mentioned, like this, you know, 70s kind of vibe, or, you know, like I kind of felt like, oh, like the werewolves, like cool, and like everybody's doing stuff, and they're going to get into some like capers and some madcap
some
things that are
going
to go on.
Yeah.
Right. And that's actually what, like, that was my biggest thing, is that I thought, I felt like this show was, it gave me like, for me, it was if you took Hee Haw and hit it with a Scooby-Doo aesthetic.
Okay.
You know, and I was like, okay, like that's the look that I'm going for, or that I feel like I have, is that jokes from Hee Haw. It sort of seems like that campy, good-natured humor.
Right.
And then a Scooby-Doo kind of style of animation. Right. Or actually, I'm sorry, let me rephrase. Scooby-Doo and the Monkeys. Like if there was a mashup between those two, I was like, those are two things that I like. How can this go wrong?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I knew it was going to go wrong right from the theme song. I actually had the opposite reaction.
Oh, really?
From you. Yeah, as soon as the theme song started, I was just like, I know where this is going, and it's not a place I want to be. And it was just, the theme song did its job. It told me exactly what the show was, tonally at least going to be about, which is nothing. Just bad jokes and bad puns and a lot of kind of crappy music. And I wanted nothing to do with it. I did not want to join the Ghoulies get together. I did not.
No, I was not interested in that.
Dude, how do you like these lyrics, by the way?
For the theme song?
Yeah, for the theme song.
They were just kind of goofy and
it sounds like a song that should be
indicative
like
of that time.
It sounds like it should be like a it should be like sung at weddings as like a
like Brown Eyed Girl.
No, but like a song that has like a dance routine too. Like the electric slide or something. It's just because they're like, come on, everybody shout. I just couldn't do it. And it lies to you. It straight up lies to you.
Ghoulies get together.
Yeah, but it straight up lies to you.
Yeah, it does. There are some things that are not factual as you are kind of going through the theme song.
Yep.
And so, they say they got like the fourth line is say,
thank you.
They got jokes for everybody.
Nope.
And I honestly feel that this show would be better edited if they just put crickets, like if they put a cricket sound effect, like there. Soundboard just in the background so that every time one of these jokes would bomb, that they just cricket.
If this show was actually self-aware of how unfunny it was, that would have been hilarious. Because it would be like watching a failed like stand-up routine or a failed like a really bad episode of SNL or something like that, where it's just like, oh, they're trying so hard and it's terrible. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and that's when I find comedy. For some reason, I find it the funniest. Like when I watch friends either do stand-up or perform improv or sketch or whatever, and I see the gears in their head churning because they're like, damn it, I really have to turn on the old razzle dazzle right now.
Yeah. I need a bat pun.
I got a kid showbiz this up right now.
Yeah, right.
And ignite this audience, and you see them work to the best of their ability as hard as they possibly can, and they're just fighting an uphill battle. And I love watching that, because I'm rooting for them to win.
Right.
I'm not trying to be vindictive. Right. Like, I really want them to win. I want them to be successful.
Yeah, I wanted the show to be good.
Yeah, I had high hopes. I'd never heard of the show. Right. I wanted to get into it. The theme song, I know that it was different for you, Dave, but I sat there like, okay, like I can get behind this. Like, I'm not a big fan of classic rock or like 70s music, but all right, cool. Like I'll fall in line and I'll get excited behind it. And then we get right into the guts of this.
The thing was, and I described it this way. I said, this show feels like if someone just strapped you down to a chair and just cranked Monster Mash over and over and over again for 20 minutes. And right from the theme song, I knew that's what we were going to get. And I was not thrilled. I was not amused.
And it really, and I know that we had talked about this earlier, and my takeaway from this was that this show just wanted to do a joke every 30 seconds for the lowest common denominator.
Exactly. I think that's the best way to put it.
And they just, who finds this funny? I don't.
I said, little kids.
I sat there trying to figure it out. Like, who is laughing at this shit?
I can see little kids, mental patients. That's about it. Pretty much anybody who hasn't seen.
I wouldn't say anything that's like, I don't want to say anything ableist, but it's like, for me, it was one of the, too late. It was one of those awful, you go into like a friend's bathroom. I did this the other night. I went over to a mutual friend of ours, and I was over there playing board games with him, and I went into his bathroom, and he has on top of the tank of his toilet, it says like 1,000 of the world's funniest jokes. And I was like,
those stupid
Jason
books.
Woods, what the fuck is your problem?
The call out. I love it.
I was like, what? I sat there thinking to myself, like, what are you doing? But that's what this was. It was the jokes. Yes. It was the jokes from those 100 100 funniest Halloween jokes, and you're like, no, these aren't funny. These are terrible.
And literally, probably what the writers did was grabbed a bunch of those books and then just animated the jokes around those things, because none of these things go together whatsoever. They're all non sequiturs. They're all set up for whatever the situation has to be. But that's exactly right. That is the level of jokes that we're talking about. It's stuff that you can like read on a book while you're taking a crap and never laugh once, but just be like, yep, that is time. By definition a joke. Next. It's basically like if you took the worst dad jokes from Halloween, because these are not even like, dad jokes are bad, but on some level you laugh because it's like,
Yeah,
they're dad jokes.
because
These are worse than dad jokes.
These are worse than dad jokes.
I'll give you an example. We literally, after the theme song wraps, we literally see Dracula just like flying around as a bat.
Right.
And I think he just says like, welcome to Horrible Hall. And then he smashes into the wall, turns into the human form. And he already says, this place is driving me batty. It's right out of the frickin' gates of hell that we just get right into this pun.
You just smash cut to a mummy, or it was like two ghouls, like two mummies, like a male and a female. And somebody's just like, how did you two meet? And he just, the male mummy looks at the female mummy and just goes, it was love at first fright. And they're just like, ah!
Yeah,
and they both scream at each other.
So scared their like wrappings come off. Sean and I could literally go through this entire show, like just line for line, and you guys you have to listen and just be tortured
there's a
skeleton
skeleton sitting on top of a skeleton-shaped telephone.
This was disturbing.
And he goes, I love it when so-and-so calls. It's a spine-tingling experience. And I put a gun to my head.
Yeah, I think he even said, I love sitting...
Metaphorical.
I thought he said, I love sitting on so-and-so's phone. I thought he even said, like, I love sitting on Dracula's phone. I was just like, you got, like, butt bone to phone right there. And when that thing was ringing, he was just... His whole body was...
Well, and that's like the Requiem for a Dream is like, bone to phone. Bone to phone.
Bone to phone. I didn't take it out for air.
Yeah.
Yikes. I mean, I don't even know where to go with this one, man.
Well, I mean, like, I don't even know.
Because we can't give you guys any kind of cohesive story because there is
nothing.
We can go through some of the jokes. We can talk about some of the segments that actually try to build like a little mini story, but I don't even know what to do other than to warn you away from this stuff.
There's a moment where somebody is, I guess it's Sabrina. Mm-hmm. You're not really introduced to her at this point, but she's like, check out my new sound system. And she turns it on, and ghosts come out of the speaker. Right. And Dracula just goes, oh, stereophonic sound. Oh, and like, shut up. So just shut your dumb mouth.
We've got that. I just want to share a note with you guys. So we've got that joke. We've also got the werewolf sitting in the bathtub, pouring a bottle of like bubble bath in. And he's like, oh, this is just what I need. Hair remover. And you're like, okay, well, I guess
and bunnies are jumping out of the bathtub.
Bunnies
hairs.
So he's like, not that kind of hair. And I literally wrote down, this is 2 minutes in. My note is just like a depressed, like a suicide note. If anyone ever finds this, they're like, this is 2 minutes in. Like, well, he was watching Groovie Ghoulies, so he probably had it coming. We should...
Go
ahead.
Hold on. I'm sorry. This is too good. Because 3 lines later in my notes, I wrote, we are 3 minutes in now at this point. Like we are, and there was like a 45-minute theme song. That was the song. I was like, oh my God, we're 2 minutes and 15 seconds into this shit.
It's real bad. I should mention that the episode we are watching is season 1, episode 6. It is called Feed the Ghost Some Garlic.
We're going to get into why that's relevant.
Yeah, real soon. So we should, Why did you pick this one, by the way? Did you just come across this one and we're just like, what the fuck is that title?
You know what? Yeah, I thought the title was interesting, and I've been cooking a lot with garlic, and so I was like, this is, you wanted an honest answer? I've been...
Answers with Sean Paul Ellis.
Yep.
Hey, do you know how to play baseball by any chance?
I do.
Did a werewolf teach you?
But I'm not interested with anything that has to hit with a bat.
I couldn't even keep up with the amount of terrible puns in this. Like, I just literally wrote down more puns. Because I was like, we'll just come up with them as we go.
Frankenstein makes the comment where he goes, great, I love baseball. I'm going to go get the insect spray because I love catching flies. And I was like, go bury yourself.
Again.
Go bury yourself again. There's a umpire vampire.
He's like, every game of baseball needs a vampire.
The batter's box is a grave.
Yeah. Every time werewolf goes up to bat, he is accidentally just holding Dracula by his legs because he's a bat. Get it, guys?
Yep.
You guys get it?
He pulls him out at one point and he just goes, "Uh-oh, wrong kind of bat." And I'm just like, this is that we are 3 minutes in and you've made like 5 fucking bat jokes now. He just turned
like Keanu Reeves though. That's my favorite werewolf.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow.
This bat is like an actual bat.
Ah.
Do you
So
want to get
then-
to the segment? I don't know. Can you think of any more puns from that baseball game?
No,
I
my
don't even want
brain is
to.
so tired from that. That segment wore me out.
It's exhausting. And there's no laugh
because
track, so you can't
it's
even like lean on that.
like, and it goes so quickly. There's no transitional animation to get you from point A to B.
Right.
You were going A to N to double Z
Just in
to an alien alphabet, and you're just like, where? And you realize it's because Filmation, they made this on the dirt cheap.
You know what's interesting to me though is normally if you have a show where Johnny Quest comes to mind because it's from a similar era,
Sure.
where you have the same cast of characters, relatively small, limited cast of characters. They have a conflict that comes up every episode. They run to the right side of the screen. They run to the left side of the screen. Normal shows like this, where they have kind of like an episodic story that's procedural or whatever you want to call it, they usually have shared backgrounds that they reuse over and over and over again. This show was
Right.
almost shooting themselves in the foot by making it so complicated because they had all these sequences that they had to then animate, and they were so fast and they cut so often. I almost think that they probably went over budget on a lot of this stuff. Not that the quality looks like they did, but just the fact they had to animate so many different mini segments and so many like motions and characters coming in, and they couldn't really reuse backgrounds, and they just had so much stuff going on, and none of it was funny, but they still had to animate all of it. So I don't know. I feel like that was probably, maybe all their resources went to that, and there wasn't anybody left to write any jokes for the damn thing.
Well, I mean, you bring up a great point, and the thing that I'm curious about is that we watched one episode,
Right.
one 20-minute episode. I'm curious how many baseball games they went back to.
All the
I'm
baseball
curious-
games. They just, I
I'm
want them
curious
to
how many
play
times-
this episode over and over again and just change the dialogue.
Oh, I want to talk about that
Okay.
later. But they just had, did every episode have a Goldilocks story that's retold with Frankenstein as the titular character?
Maybe they just plugged that in.
I mean, I really think that there were so many parts that were in this, like the ghost and the garlic. I wonder if that was sort of like a story from another episode that they just re-edited into this
Oh, I see what you're
theme
saying.
song, like into this song that they had, and they just did that back and forth. I'm curious to know if there's a song in another episode that's just about monster baseball.
I guarantee that there is.
And
now
it's
that you
just
say that.
chopped up images
just
of
the same
them
thing.
doing exactly what they're doing, and
Uh-huh.
that's all the show is. And so I agree with you that they had so much stuff that happened so quickly that I feel like they kind of shot themselves in the foot. But I wonder if they were just like, if they sat there and thought, we can get around this by just making every episode a baseball theme episode.
Every single
Every
time.
episode-
every
Every episode
16 episodes
has-
of baseball themed stuff. I
Yeah.
will say this though, at least for the musical sections, which we're about to get to in a second. The reviews that I read, the reviews that I read from fans of the nostalgia or whatever for this show, do remember some of the musical numbers fondly. A lot of people remembered a song called "Chicka Boom" for whatever reason. I listened to it. I was like, there's nothing for me that's
Yeah,
like.
wasn't that a song by the Canadian singer-songwriter Feist? Oh no, that's Mushaboom.
Mushaboom. I had no clue either
Mushaboom.
way, but Chicka Boom.
Chickaboom.
Chicka Boom. Check it out. Chicka Boom. So yeah, Sean, you alluded to a Goldilocks retelling with Frankenstein as Goldilocks, which the idea of it is funny because they put him in like the little nightgown and the little blonde wig. But honestly, even
Sure.
visually, man, like nothing made me laugh. Maybe I'm just a cold, dead-hearted adult, but
No, you're not.
just nothing was funny. The only thing that made me kind of
There's- well, there
smile.
were-
Do you remember this when all the bears came in?
Oh yeah, then I'm gonna say exactly the line
Go
that
ahead,
you
you got it.
you have is they have the mummy, which for some reason sounds like a stereotypical Jewish Hollywood person.
Yeah, there were a lot of stereotypes going on.
so
this.
many
So
stereotypes.
many.
It was, some of it was very uncomfortable because they're not done well, and so a stereotype that's treated and handled with respect,
Or
in
flipped
order
or
to-
something. Yeah.
yeah, or that's done well with the intent of lampooning or shining some light on something.
Right.
Great, wonderful job. If it's just thrown in there to be hacky, it's not funny, guys. So there's this moment where the one of the bears walks in and it's the mummy.
Yeah, so
And
like before that they have there's two other bears that walk in, but it's actually just our other like characters in disguise as bears. So like the wolf man, I think, and then somebody else is a different bears.
He's like, hey man, I'm the baby bear.
Yeah. Smoke. He literally just like takes a bong hit right after that. It's great.
He's just ripping and rolling through this entire thing. He's having a great time. But the mummy walks in and he goes, I'm the mummy bear. What else would I be?
That's the only time I kind of smiled, but I was just like ready to put my foot through the screen. Oh, and then at the end of this little segment, this cutesy little segment, I don't know if it's a narrator or Drac comes in. He's like, for a family of bears, this is a grisly end. And I wanted to stop, but there's so much more to go.
This is bad pun city.
Well, we do get to our first musical breakdown now. So that actually brings you to the title of the episode. What were your thoughts on what the hell happens here?
I really regretted my choice.
Yeah, I mean, these things happen.
Regretted my choices on this.
Let me ask you this. If you have a ghost problem, but you can't track them,
right?
What would you suggest you do in order to keep track of them? So you could like find them in the dark even.
Is he looking for a lark?
You might be looking for a lark, whatever the fuck that means. The show makes me so angry.
Yeah. I guess you would feed a ghost some garlic.
Oh, that makes sense.
And that's how that works.
We should write a song about it.
Honestly, when you think about all the lore and mythos for all of the different types
everything
of
else.
When you think of the mythos for any other type of supernatural creature or character, there's only one that ever really has garlic in its lore, and that's a vampire.
Who is also in this like musical group and doesn't seem to be affected by all the fucking garlic that's flying around.
Right. Doesn't seem to have a care in the world about it.
Totally fine.
But evidently, in the universe building that they are making here, that they are asserting that if you feed a ghost garlic, now they never talk about the preparation of the garlic.
No. Do you have to kill the garlic?
Yeah, right.
Until like send it to the great beyond. Do you have to bury the garlic?
Yeah, they don't really get into to anything about this. It's just if you happen to come across a ghost, feed that ghost some garlic. Which I will say, if that's a tip that they're trying to convey to me,
it's like an old Romani wisdom, I think.
You're right. Yeah. Because I can't see ghosts, and if I have the opportunity to feed them some garlic so that I can see them, so I can avoid them.
Well, now go ahead, finish your thought, but then I have a question for you.
I'll do it then. Like, I'll make that happen.
Okay.
I'll make that happen.
Now here's my question. So your logic is if you feed them garlic, you can see them?
Doesn't really make sense.
This is what I was wondering. I was like, I'm watching this fucking music video, and I'm like, are they
just looks like he's getting a stomach ache.
He does.
And,
I'm like, are they
about
just
ready to take a shit?
Is he just like pooping garlic? Is he making like ghost toots that smell like garlic, so you can kind of like trace them through the house? Because I'm like, that sounds like a terrible problem. I've not only got a ghost in the house, he's now leaving garlic scented shits everywhere. Yeah. This place reeks and is haunted. So maybe stop feeding him garlic. Maybe that's how you track them. I don't know. I'm gonna ask the Winchesters how they feel about that one. Right. I still say burn the bones and burn any or salt the grave, burn the bones, and burn any connections to the previous host. Much like Sean did with my relative's ashes earlier this show.
Yeah,
so well done. I tried feeding him garlic. You did the responsible thing.
Well, to make matters worse, in the second verse of this song...
Oh, I thought you meant that this show was only half over at this point.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's still we're only like 11 minutes in.
Boy.
Yeah. They get to this point where they are doing the second verse and they begin to take liberties with the rhyming scheme that they've created for themselves. Yeah. And so they start saying, they're like, if you... Like, something about, like, if you want to be nicey, make that dish spicy. And I was like... I clenched my fist because they just continued to go on at that point. They had created this template and they shoehorned every possible thing that they could fit in there. And then for some reason we're talking about feeding a ghost garlic, and there is just a random montage of dancing furniture and items that look like they were from Disney's Beauty and the Beast, like a teacup flipping up and down, and different kitchen
It's a straight acid trip
accoutrement.
at this point.
It's oh god.
This show would have been great on drugs. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, don't do drugs, and also don't watch this show.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Sean on actually both points for once.
Oh.
Ooh. So yeah, we're halfway there.
It goes to this whole song,
Right.
and then it just ends, and it picks up immediately with
now's the weird window game.
Yeah, now's the weird window game, and so like we jump right into this thing where they're asking non sequitur. They're setting people. They're doing 3-line scenes.
Right.
For anybody who's ever done an improv scene, this is 3-line scenes, like setting somebody up, getting somebody to deliver some type of a punchline or like yes and that idea, and then they're summing it up with some type of a punchline to roll it onto something else.
Like Sean, if
it is awful.
Like if I asked you, what do you take in your coffee? What would you say?
Just a little bit of scream.
That's a good one too. What he actually said though in this case was,
whoops.
No, Sean did much better because I would have laughed at that. Probably not, but I would have laughed more at that than what I'm about to say. So what do you take in your coffee? A little sugar and vanishing cream. And then he vanishes. And I rip my computer in half. Do you have any other jokes from this particular segment?
The whole thing where Sabrina makes a comment about she's a scream of vampire soup.
I was like,
and
you're not even trying at that
point. I
point.
fell out of my desk chair at that point. I was like, oh yeah, of course. And these are the moments when you start talking back to like. I've moved past the idea. Yeah. I've moved past the point of looking at the YouTube counter to see how far I am in minutes. I'm not even interested in Pokemon Shuffle. I'm just talking back to the computer where they're making these jokes, and I'm providing my own adult laugh track for it because going ha 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 ha. Yeah. Oh yeah, real funny.
There was one that almost
become a
laugh.
Terrible human, like
because of the show. Yeah.
Because of this fucking
There's
show.
one that almost made me laugh. I think it might have been that little skeleton guy that looked like the skeleton of Captain Crunch. I couldn't figure out what was going on with him. He looked like if you just killed Captain Crunch and kept the skeleton around. He had like a weird hat, like the little.
It was like Batso and Patso.
Well, those were the two like little goblin kids that like stole Wolfie's surfboard later on.
Yeah.
But he was something else. He said something along to the effect of, "You show me a ghost who haunts the college, and I'll show you the old school spirit." I can just hear you guys groaning out there. I apologize. Don't watch this show.
There's I said the one joke that I didn't absolutely hate was the Sabrina the scream of vampire soup joke.
Oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
There were two. No, you didn't. There were two things in this. One that I found offensive. One that I began just getting irrationally angry about.
Okay.
Which is the continued bit that they had of Frankenstein going up and smelling a flower.
Yeah.
And something it would bite him, and he'd be like, "Oh, a snapdragon."
Yeah. So like every time he would go to the windowsill, and he'd be like, "My favorite flower is," and then you would look, and it would be a different type of flower that was like a visual pun.
And it's creepy because it's such an improv game that they're playing at that point with that it's something called Into the Ether.
Okay.
Where like you step out and you make a statement.
Okay.
And you continue to make statements over and over, and you build this pattern organically, and then somebody either is able to sum everything up so that everybody's aware of what's going on, or they make a punchline, or they break from whatever the pattern is in order to make a punchline.
To make it funny.
To make it funny. And in this case, they never do any of that. It really is just this lowest common denominator joke of Frankenstein either getting kissed by a flower, having one flower draw like a black eye like around him.
Old black-eyed Susan.
Black-eyed Susan.
These jokes are like the level of the joy buzzer in your hand.
Yeah.
Or like the gum that turns your teeth black, or like a squirting flower or something. Just like the lowest level you can have.
They're just so bad. But the thing that pissed me off that I was actually I wasn't offended by this because I don't know. I can't be offended by this.
If it's the same thing that I'm thinking of, we're going to have fun with this.
But I was disappointed with the joke that they made because it was dumb. They have this moment where they're talking about something about like Native Americans with the vampire with the count or whatever.
Yeah, so this is a
And-
segment called like Dracula's Dingy Dungeon, and
Yeah.
you
Or
basically
ask a casket.
ask a casket, and you basically are following Drac as he goes through like his dungeon, and you know his first joke is like, "Welcome to my dungeon. It closes at 5 o'clock sharp," and then a guillotine like slams closed behind him. Like, oh, I get it, because guillotines are sharp. What's the next joke? And then this racist run of like anti-Native American stuff comes in just out of fucking nowhere.
And then suddenly it's the Frankenstein's monster, and he goes, he should have joined the, and I would try to do this as best I can. He goes, he should have joined the Apache tribe instead of Apache tribe. And it, ooh,
Look, there.
I mean, these jokes are just.
There was a reservation joke, you know, the typical like, oh, I hope you made reservations, and then it's like one of them turning into a bat, and he's the Native American bat for whatever reason. So he's got a red, like he's got like a feather in his headband, and then he even does the like war cry as he flies away, and it's just like, I mean, I guess 1970. This is.
And then it cuts to Frankenstein, and he's got a full war bonnet like on, and I'm just like, look. We can't even have R&B singers in this country do that well. What thinks you are above somebody
Groovie
who's on
Ghoulies.
The Voice?
Oh God. I think the next segment is actually when we get to Bella, because she says, "Hello, Bella Lugosi's spooking." Like oh my God, that's what makes me so angry. They don't even use just like English. Like every fucking word has to be a pun. This is when I got irate, because it's like you can't. First, they stole like a man, not living legend, but a legend of cinema's name to make it to this like floozy psychic girl. And then she can't even say like, you know, Bela Lugosi speaking. Like you can't even just have that one joke like, oh, okay, it's funny, you're taking Bela Lugosi's name. It has to be Bela Lugosi spooking. Like you would walk out of this comedy club. If a guy came in with like big golf pants and a big plaid, you know, overcoat, and started just like slinging these jokes around, you would throw your drink at him and you would walk out. And unfortunately, we could not walk out of this show because we had to review it for this podcast, but it does not get better. I don't know how it doesn't get better, but it never gets better. That's my little rant for the evening, I guess.
No, I mean, I mean, you're right. It doesn't,
well, I mean, it almost actually gets worse.
Yeah, we have a moment. Well, I mean, I don't know if it gets any worse than the Native
we need to talk
American.
about corduroy for a second, because there's some weird stuff going on there.
Was it corduroy?
It sounded like they said corduroy.
Okay.
So essentially, at this point, we've got these two little goblin kids, Batso and Ratso, I think you said.
Batso and Patso is what I think. Yeah.
And they, like, Wolfie's out, and he's about to like, he's got a surfboard, and he's just gonna go have a groovy time and just take all the bong hits, but these kids decide they want to go steal a surfboard. Well, this guy who's kind of like, he just looks, I mean, he's not normal by any means, but normal for the show, but he's kind of effeminate. He's got kind of a weird delivery. It's a little effeminate. What was your reaction from him, from Corduroy?
Yeah, I wrote homosexual ghost.
So there you go. Homosexual ghost named Corduroy. He's basically like saying like, oh, these kids are up to no good. I'm going to get the surfboard back, and I'm going to...
He goes, well, those ruffians have stolen Wolfie's surfboard.
Those ruffians have stolen Wolfie's surfboard. Yeah. So I
must procure it and bring it back to Wolfie.
For a possible reward. So he's kind of... I don't know what they're doing with this character. But basically, he gets the surfboard back to Wolfie, but it ends up in such a way that he... like lands next to Wolfie on the surfboard. So Wolfie automatically assumes that he's the one that stole the surfboard. At which point, he gets blamed for the thieving, and then the kids are watching and are like, looks like Corduroy got his reward in the end, and the Wolfman spanks him in the ass with the surfboard.
Yeah.
And I was very uncomfortable by that whole scenario. From beginning to literal end. It was not good. It was not good. It's not only not funny, but when it borders on like the offensive, especially with our modern sentiments. I mean, I'm still like, I put my foot in my mouth all the time, but whatever. This is like purposefully going to make fun of, you know, the disenfranchised, the minorities. We don't do that this day and age. Then again, this was like 50 years ago. So
it felt like Native American joke, joke against gay people, and then like
just a lot of cheap stuff.
discipline abuse joke, like spanking joke.
I don't know.
Who knows? It gets to this point, and if you think that they can't make the show any worse, there is a second song. Which didn't make any sense. I rolled and tuned out from the first line when it goes, "Every Ghoulie's birthday is at midnight," and I was like, "What? That logically makes no fucking sense."
See, I checked out at the line.
That makes no fucking sense.
I checked out at the line. Midnight comes in the middle of the night. That's when I almost just was like, you know what? It's like, you know what? I can buy a new computer. I'm just gonna smash this thing. Just like you guys are not even trying at this point. This was an actual line in the song from the Rolling Headstones.
Fuck.
We did miss one segment where basically Hagatha is cooking some stuff for her terrible son Frankenstein and some other stuff. And they literally, without going into any of the other terrible jokes, she literally wraps the whole thing up by going, "Oh no, here we go again." Like, guys, I'm sorry for this. I can only apologize for this. We didn't know this going into it. This happens every once in a while on the show. I just hate wrapping the month up with it, but there it is. Do you have anything else from that last musical number?
No, I
really think, midnight comes in the middle of the night and every Ghoulies' birthday is at midnight just sums up.
Just makes no sense.
No, none of this makes fucking sense.
Ugh.
It's very frustrating. We're very frustrated. And then there's an outro. Thank God. I could not be happier for an outro. This is like the one show where the outro rolled and I did not watch the entirety of it. I was just like, good, we're done. The credits have rolled. Somehow there's like 1,000 people involved with this show. And I shut it down.
How?
I have no idea. I just shut it down. Ugh. You have anything else from this particular show you want to talk about?
No, let's review it. Let's put the nail in the coffin on this one.
That was actually funnier than anything that happened on the show.
Boo.
Yeah. I do actually have an Amazon review.
I'm excited
by Mr. John Milligan. Sorry to call you out there, John Milligan, but you did post
John.
You did post this terrible review.
Well, I'm just glad that we verified your purchase.
Yeah, right. It is a verified purchase, actually, from Amazon. From earlier this year, so April 4th, 2015. People are still watching this abomination. Here's what John has to say. The title of his review is Cool Cartoon. Now remember, folks, we've never talked to John before. We don't know what he's...
You're the best, John. You're the best.
Oh, we've never talked to him before, and presumably you have not talked to John either. So it's odd that he starts out his review thusly. Again, this is one of my cartoon series.
Nobody's arguing with you, John.
Nobody's arguing. Love this cartoon because it is silly. The Ghoulies are funny and pointate. I'm not 100% sure what he's trying to say there. Possibly poignant?
I think it's poignant?
Possibly poignant. It's spelled pointate.
Every modern browser has a spell checker, John.
And this was April of this year. The Ghoulies are funny and pointate. I am trying to collect all of the cartoons from my childhood. It is so weird that there are no cartoons on anymore. Even Cartoon Network and Boomerang don't show most of the good ones. So I am doing it for me. 5 stars. You do you, John.
Really sad. Yeah, you do
you, John. Do it for you.
Keep it up, buddy.
There are no cartoons.
Keep it up.
Just do it. You do
Also, modern web browser. Spell check. Use it.
I'm amazed he was able to upload this review.
I'm amazed that he was able to purchase anything on Amazon.
It was a verified purchase.
I'm going to be honest.
Ooh. Pointate. This has been a very pointate episode of Saturday Morning Cartoons.
A lot of shock and awe.
I think George Bush was probably a fan of this show.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, buddy, let's get to your review and recommendation. Do you recommend this show? People search it out?
Absolutely not.
Not even in not even in an ironic sense?
No, but I do you recommend this show?
Hell no. Okay. I was going to let you finish your thought, but hell no.
Well, no, because my thought is that I would love to see this show rebooted.
Oh, okay.
But not in a way that I think you hit it head on earlier in the episode when you were like, I'd love to see this show redubbed. And I would honestly love to see this show redubbed and make it even crazier. I don't think you can make any sense out of the episodes that are available.
Right.
But I think just some overdubbing on top of what they're just dubbing over some of the things that are already there, or even laughing, even adding like the adult laugh track that is not present. I think that something like that would be funny, and I would definitely watch that if it was broken into smaller like maybe segments of like 2 to 3 minutes,
almost like a Robot Chicken kind of type thing,
exactly,
or like a C-Lab 2020.
Yeah,
that's what I'm picturing.
Like
this
2020
old
or Harvey Birdman.
Yeah, the old animation with a new dialogue that actually makes it funny and is referential because they are, whatever is happening in the scene, but the dialogue is very different, and that actually makes it funny. That I would be down for.
I would be 100% down for that.
I'd be down for that.
But if you tried to do it any other way, I would just burn the world.
Look, I will say one thing. We are obviously not of this generation. I think this is one of those rare shows that, or maybe not even so rare. Maybe this is just where everyone falls in a certain year, a certain time in their life, that you will have a cartoon that you love, people of your age love, and then in 45, 50 years, you are the only ones that still love it. Everybody else thinks it's trash. That probably happens for every generation. This is someone else's generation's show. It was Groovie Ghoulies was like specifically for this time, something to take off from laughing, something that was aimed at this particular audience of this particular incredibly small slice of time. Not for us, guys. You may have picked up on that by now. Not for us. So no reboot for me, no recommendation for me. So yeah, anything else from Groovie Ghoulies? Yeah.
No, I mean, I think we hit it earlier in the episode, and you just recapped everything now. This is generational, and we're not going to say if you did love this that you're wrong to love it.
Yeah, great.
It's I mean, that's
glad
wonderful.
You enjoyed it.
I mean,
I just can't get into it.
I'm super glad John found this and that he verified purchased this. Yeah. That's great for him. It's not something that, with sort of our sensibilities that we have now, and with how we consume media and the things that we watch, it's, if this was trying to be Robot Chicken before Robot Chicken was Robot Chicken, man, wow.
Well, times have changed.
This is hard. It's challenging. It's challenging to watch these things. But it doesn't mean that, the people who do enjoy it, that they're wrong. And I'm not saying that with an eye roll. I'm saying that, I'm saying that emphatically. Yeah. If you love this show, good for you. Yeah. In fact, if you do love this show, I would love for you to email us or let us know what episodes you do love about the show. I will go back and I will rewatch an episode.
Yeah, if you
tell me that if there's something that you point out and tell me that I should watch or I should pay attention to, or if there's another song that happens to have bits cut in of the baseball games so that Filmation could save money on being able to make 14 episodes,
or Chickaboom.
I'll watch it. I'll do it.
People love Chickaboom.
I'll watch Chickaboom. I don't see the appeal right now, but I'm willing to take a look at it again and say I was wrong. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm feeling
we're
like
totally right. Yeah, we're super right.
Like totally 100% right.
But the beauty of this is that you guys can be right too. You can definitely love this show. We cannot love this show, and we can both be right, because that's just how it works. And that's honestly, like, to get sort of like podcast existential to close this one out. That's why we do this show, and that's why we try to cover different decades and different generations and different styles of show. And eventually we're going to get to a point where we're actually going to do, we've been talking about doing, shows, cartoons from different countries, where we actually have to watch the closed captions and stuff to figure out what's going on, see if there's stuff lost in translation. So what I'm trying to say is, like, it's a big wide world of cartoons out there. There's something for everyone, but not everything is for everyone. And that's what we're here to do, ferret it out. So on that note, we're going to close out.
On that note, after we shit on something for 50 minutes that we didn't like, Ghoulies. and then we tell everybody it's okay, and we kind of back ourselves out of that corner for a couple minutes.
Sometimes we need to blow off some monster steam too, so it's good. It's good. And we've definitely had our share of terrible puns on this show, so if you like it, thanks for listening. If you don't, I totally understand.
I totally get
it now.
We ate our own medicine this week.
That's true. We really did. But we hoped you guys enjoy it. We are going to now close out our Monster Madness month until this time next year. But before we do that, Sean is going to give a rundown of what he's up to in the next couple of weeks and give you a list of places that you can go see him in the DC area.
Well, actually, when this is coming out, I will actually be heading up, I think, in a short period of time to the Philadelphia Improv Festival.
Take that, DC area.
So, Yeah, take that, DC. So you can come and check out the Philly Improv Festival. Be performing at 10 p.m. on Saturday, November 7th. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'll be performing with Nox. That's Nox with an exclamation point. And you can also check out anything that we do that's down in the DC area. We do improv comedy, and I perform for Washington Improv Theater. And you can find more information at witdc.org. And always, I'm on the Grams and the Twitters at Sean Paul Ellis.
Wonderful.
Dave, where can we find you,
I'm
buddy?
not on the Grams. I
What are you
stay
up
away
to?
from the Grams. I used to be hooked on the Grams.
I want you to get on the Grams, brother.
No, as a favorite streamer of mine on Twitch says, how does he put it? Shit, I'm gonna screw this up so bad.
Wow.
It's something to the effect of, God damn it, this is terrible. It's so late. It's something to the effect of like Instagram and nipples are two things that are useless for a man. He says it so much better than I just did. I just butchered the hell out of that thing.
You nailed it.
But anyway, you got it. I'm not on the Grams, but I am on Twitter at DrClawMD. If you were interested in finding out more about the show, you can check us out at SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Remember, that's morning with a U. We are on Twitter at MorningTunes. You can also check out Sean's handiwork on our Tumblr page, SaturdayMorningCartoons.tumblr.com. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We have a weekly podcast that comes out through iTunes and Stitcher each and every week that you can check out. And if you'd like, you can always send us an email. Let us know how we're doing. Suggest another show to cover in the future. SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. That is going to wrap up our Monster Madness month. We thank you for spending your October with us and wish you a happy and safe Halloween. Next time on Saturday Morning Cartoons, this is a good one. We are going to be getting into the Transformers universe with Transformers Beast Wars. May or may not be the one you were looking for, but it's the one we'll be covering. We will have a special guest by the name of Matt Reuter on the show, so we are looking forward to that. Sean, do you remember this one from your TV watching days?
I do remember Beast Wars, so I'm excited to get back
Fondly?
into this.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure it was fondly.
No, I'm curious because it's been a while. It's been a while since I've really kind of sat down and paid attention to a lot of Transformer stuff, aside from when I played the video game Transformers Fall of Cybertron and you were working in the other room, so you heard Optimus Prime scream all of the catchphrases.
Let's
in the
lift
video
it
game.
together.
That's the one. And so
My favorite.
So I really haven't delved too much in the Transformers universe in a while, and I stay far, far away from anything that Michael Bay has done.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Transformers Beast Wars goes, I remember watching it in the mornings and having a good time, but I do remember the animation being real clunky because it was like early CG.
Yep.
And it was pretty gross looking.
It'll be pretty weird.
It's going to be pretty weird. So hopefully you'll come back and join us next time on Saturday Morning Cartoons. Thanks for listening.